Hi, yeah, I'd like to start by introducing myself. My name is Peter Davies. I'm one of the original founders of Verv. We've been in the space since about 2006, 2007. And I was pleased enough to be organising the 2014 workshop with Ollie. So it's really cool to see how much it's grown from like 10 of us in a room to what was like 150 people registered for this one, which is pretty cool. So for those of you who don't know who Verv are, we used to be called Green Running, rebranded kind of last year. So we're an AI company who very much focused in the disaggregation space. Our company's mission is basically to reduce everyone's energy consumption bills down to zero. And we do that by turning all of their data into useful information, which they can then utilize to pay to clients to actually reduce or buy those services to offset against their electricity bill. And one of the key things I kind of want to talk about in this NILM, there's obviously going to be a lot of very technical presentations and a lot of detailed information about the algorithms used and how we go about. But what I wanted to focus on is where do we see kind of NILM going in the future, and what are the kind of really useful business cases which have been associated. So I kind of want to talk you through one of the journeys which we've had as a company and how we've kind of ended up in this world of peer-to-peer energy trading, and how actually the fundamental use cases behind that are all very much driven by NILM and our kind of understanding of that level. So yeah, as you're aware, obviously the non-intrusive load monitoring side is this understanding of what appliances are on, how much they're costing you, and if they're starting to wear over time, etc. But I think to be able to forecast that appliance usage, i.e. when you turn on a washing machine, that you know that in an hour's time, the heating element of that washing machine is going to turn on, can allow you to kind of forecast for energy consumption usage. And also knowing that the fridge is on and the kind of cycle power that the fridge has been utilized on allows you to predict that in 20 minutes time, the actual fridge cycle will be pulled through. This is our latest product. So we sample very much in the kind of high speeds. So this one does a megahertz and allows us to pull in both the voltage and the current by actually plugging the system in. So we utilize the actual full power measurements to kind of produce our kind of NILM algorithms. It's a 3-channel unit, so that allows us to take in current voltage, obviously, but across 3 channels as well. So we also take in solar feeds and battery feeds, and that therefore allows us this kind of unique proposition in the house, which I'll talk about more. Ours is all locally done via an app, so this information is sent in real time to the consumer via an app, so they get notifications telling them if their washing machine is breaking down over time, or they've left their hair straighteners on, or the iron or the oven, etc. We've got a demo actually set up next door, which you can have a look at. But again, it's that kind of real-time usage for the consumer, which is our key focus. And where we found ourselves starting to be positioned more and more was actually as this kind of home energy management system. So we never wanted to be like the platform. That was always going to be Amazon Echo, Google Home Hub, etc., or Samsung Smart Things. But where we wanted to be was this kind of home energy management system. So we're the node on the electricity meter, which is managing your solar, your battery, and your kind of general consumption. And so this led us down to a path where we won a project where we had about 100 homes, and each of those 100 homes was spread around the UK, and each of those homes had solar panels on the roof and a battery storage system in the home. And we monitored this project for about a year, and during the course of the project, our team, obviously a bunch of engineers, data scientists, we were very interested in actually how this energy data is being utilized, and if we were able to prove that something like peer-to-peer energy trading was even viable. So we spent a long time looking at this data, and we're quite interested that the kind of results we got through were each one of these homes, if we did peer-to-peer trading, would save about 20% off their electricity bill, and each of those homes that had solar panels would be able to generate a further 20% worth of revenue. And in each of the homes in the UK, that was looking at about £120 per home. So what we then did was wrote a government grant and won a grant from a kind of Innovate project, which allowed us to actually build this kind of peer-to-peer trading platform. And the really interesting thing was we chose blockchain as a technology, not because blockchain now is a very buzzy thing, everything's kind of pulled through. The only reason we chose blockchain was so that we didn't have to have a team of kind of 5 or 10 developers sat working 24/7 to kind of keep this peer-to-peer system live, and me lose sleep at night by worrying if it was going to go down. obviously we've been very lucky that blockchains then become the kind of buzzword, and actually energy is probably one of the best use cases for a kind of utility function of a blockchain token. So just put a slide up here to kind of talk about what's actually happening in the Verv Home Hub. So we've got a quad-core processor in there. One of those cores is very much working on the high-speed data acquisition, the analysis. Two of those cores are working on using the machine learning techniques and actually driving it to actually do the NILM analysis, etc. But therefore, we've got this last core, which we were able to actually put together as a kind of blockchain node itself for the trading. But I think the key things to know that the three key functions of the actual hub, the first one is the actual NILM algorithms. So you pulling it in and you're able to work out that in an hour's time, the heating element from the washing machine will be required, or as said before, the kind of fridge unit is turning on and off. But we're also pulling in the solar data as well. So we've got satellite feeds being put through, which allow us to kind of analyze the cloud opacity. So you can always tell that in your home, how much solar is going to be generated in the kind of next 5, 10 minutes, half an hour, week, month, etc., based on the actual weather patterns and the cloud movement. And the third one was the actual communication with the battery. So we were talking with the APIs from the battery providers that we were working with to find out just kind of how full the battery was, what the kind of charge rates were, the capacity levels. And that allowed us to kind of really put together this kind of full management system, but actually using the kind of non-intrusive load monitoring as the key factor behind it all. And it was the key factor because it was the tool that allowed to make the trading decisions. So we would know that solar was kind of coming onto the roof to be able to say, okay, we're going to have extra energy. But with the NILM technology, we're able to say, well, are we going to use that energy or are we not going to use that energy? And the cool thing about the algorithms were like, yeah, okay, well, we know the fridge is going to be turning on in 20 minutes time. So we're going to want to use some of the energy for that. But it now means we've got excess that we can sell to your next door neighbor. And it allowed us to build up an even more accurate. So that where we were originally getting kind of 20%, we're now able to move that to kind of 25, 30% benefit for the consumer by having this kind of clever layer on top of the actual energy trading. And then when we started comparing that data to, say, smart meters and the data we were getting back from smart meters, we were realizing that we were actually able to make our trading decisions far more effective. So almost 10 times quicker than what we were able to do with our smart meter data, because you have this instantaneous knowledge of, okay, you know, your kettle's turned on or your dishwasher, etc. So you can actually really do this kind of advanced trading. And this becomes very useful if you think about the kind of settlement of the energy sector itself and where the likes of peer-to-peer goes. Because there's two key factors. You've got somebody that wants to put the energy onto the grid, but they need to match up with somebody that's going to be able to buy the energy from them at the same time. So it's very important to kind of have this matching algorithm and to be able to utilize that by knowing what appliances are on and how much power they're going to draw in the future. So we looked for a really cool case study where we could really prove that this was going to be beneficial. And we basically came across a housing estate in London where each of these tower blocks, you can see on the top left, there's about 40 flats in each tower block. And on top of the roof, they'd already crowdfunded to get solar panels on there. And those solar panels were getting a feed-in tariff where they were getting 5p per kilowatt hour coming out of the feed-in tariff. But each of these homes were actually social housing homes, so they're all on prepay meters. So whereas the average consumer is probably paying about 15p per kilowatt hour, these guys are paying about 18, 19p per kilowatt hour because it's on prepay. But if you think about it, you know, they've got the energy on the roof, which is generating for them, and they're paying an extra 13, 14p per kilowatt hour, even though they're actually using the electrons from their roof. So you've got this misbalance between how much they're actually paying the retailer and how much of their own energy that they're actually generating. So it just became a really good use case for us to actually demonstrate the power of peer-to-peer energy trading. So if you're able to pick up your energy from your neighbor, you still pay the transmission costs and the grid costs, but you can prove very clearly from this that actually if you utilized your own energy on top, then actually you would gain far more benefit from it. And you've probably already noticed that things like feed-in tariffs have started to disappear. The UK has already scrapped it. Ireland didn't even have them. And therefore, peer-to-peer energy trading is kind of going to be the future to be able to allow these energy retailers the ability to make money from people's solar, but also encourage people to go and adopt solar as it comes through. And the reason I think this is so powerful is because non-intrusive load monitoring is going to be able to do that kind of prediction for you. It's going to be very much like the Forex markets. Like, he who has access to the data the quickest will be able to get the best price in the market. So all the algorithms that everybody in these rooms are putting together are going to become more and more valuable the closer we get towards peer-to-peer energy trading. So I just thought, you can't have a non-intrusive load monitoring conversation without having a graph. So what I want to do was show the UK's first live trade that we put on the blockchain. And those key data scientist minds can see the appliances quite clearly, which are being used in the short window which is being used. So what happens is you have the solar being put through, and somebody puts up a kind of live trade price, and then you have another neighbor which is sat there knowing that they're going to use a kilowatt hour in the future, so they have a buy price, and the two of them match through. So this was just a house, I think it was in Leicester, which was doing its first peer-to-peer trade, which is cool. But I think the really interesting fact about this whole sector and why it's growing probably so much is just the size of it. Like, it's a completely international problem. Every country uses energy. Every country's got the most consumers in people's homes, which are kind of needing this peer-to-peer trading, along with the kind of industrial play. And I think, we're very early stage in this, but already we've kind of got very international players interested in this space. In the UK, we've been lucky enough to get the regulator on board. So we've got Ofgem, who have generated a sandbox for us to make everything's legal. And actually, a lot of the regulatory issues with this are actually more around the actual bill and how the consumer is put towards a bill. And so therefore, what we've done with the Hackney project is completely automate all the trading. So you as a consumer, you don't want to be part of the trading. You don't really want to know what's happening. You just want to carry on using your energy as you would. So actually, all the automated decisions which are being made for the trading are all done on your behalf on the back end. And I think, it's kind of key to show where it's kind of progressing from. And the other key benefit, again, from non-intrusive load monitoring is just the data and that value of the data. So I'm sure we're going to hear a lot today about how people are turning that data into monetized value. But the more kind of people that have this kind of higher access to the data, the granularity, the more business cases are going to turn up, and the more people are going to realize the actual value of capable from this data. I mean, we've already been working with insurance companies to kind of lower people's contents bill. You've got obviously all the battery companies which are now interested, because if they've got the actual data, they can tell you what the return on investment will be for your home. And the key thing that I want to point out here is the power of the blockchain again. Is in the fact that we've teamed up with Ocean Protocol, and Ocean Protocol are basically able to encrypt the data into a format which can tell you who's using it and for how long they're using it, and therefore destroy that data after a certain period of time. So GDPR is obviously a huge scenario in this whole industry, but it's actually quite a beneficial one, because it's the first time that it means that the consumer itself is in control of who their data goes to and can decide who they want to sell it to, and can decide if there's somebody that they don't want to sell it to. And by using kind of Ocean's protocol and some of the stuff in the blockchain world, it means we can actually do that, because we can trace that data all the way through its encryption. And it means you can not only just sell it to one player, so say you want to sell it to Amazon, you can also sell it over and over again to different bodies and keep track of it, and also destroy it if you don't want them to keep having it. Which is why I think, again, kind of blockchain will be quite key in this whole scenario. And it's making big waves. Like, we've got the likes of the Energy Web Foundation and a few of the kind of large venture players based in the blockchain space that are really getting behind this whole energy play. So I do think the kind of NILM scenario is going to be the fundamentals behind it. It will be blockchain that actually allows it to really leverage and kind of go mass on it. And I think that shows, again, so some of the key traction areas we've had is everything from electric vehicle companies to battery companies to insurance companies to network companies and even the kind of retailers. And off the back of some of these programs, you've got the likes of Google who are interested. We've just won the startup program at Vodafone, so we're on their accelerator program. So you've got these huge corporations outside of the actual energy retail space itself really kind of starting to pay attention with where the industry is going, because they're all wanting to get into this connected home play. They all want to be part of the home. And obviously the electricity meter is sat there as a very key source of information and will be one of the single nodes. If you look at Ring, has just been bought for £1 billion. It's just the doorbell node. And so you think there's going to be the gas node, the electricity node, and all these other players in the connected home space. And again, I think even press-wise has been quite interesting. You've got the likes of Forbes, you've got the likes of Bloomberg, and a few of the other players that have really picked up in this last 12 months. I think Ollie's, it's always been very interesting to see that number of papers which has been put through. But I think actually on top of that papers, we can almost do press now as well, because in the last 12 months, I've certainly seen a huge boom in energy-related stuff based on kind of NILM technology and blockchain. Cool. So yeah, this is our team. There's 44 of us now based in London. The majority are data scientists. I think we've got about 14 guys working on the data science side. And we've now got a kind of blockchain team, but the kind of fundamentals of it all is all built on this non-intrusive load monitoring and the knowledge of how these appliances are being put through. Cool. Yeah, so that's me. Any questions?